Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something pretty cool. It's a story about smart growth and making a big impact even if you don't have a ton of resources.
Sounds right up our alley.
Yeah, right. We're going to be looking at YSTech. It's a tech services company based in India, and their founder, Anuuj.
Okay.
And his story's amazing. It's like a masterclass in innovation, especially if you're a company that's looking to grow but maybe doesn't have a bottomless budget.
And the fact that he's built this in India's tech scene makes it even more fascinating, right? I mean, that's a hotbed of talent known for being super cost effective.
Right, exactly. So to get started, Anuuj didn't actually begin in tech services.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he jumped into e-commerce back in the early 2010s when India's economy was booming.
So like India's version of the dot-com boom?
Exactly. He dove right in head first.
That kind of tells you everything you need to know about the guy, right? Not afraid to take risks.
Totally. And he built this successful e-commerce business without any outside funding. Yeah, they were actually turning a profit, riding that wave of digital transformation in India. But then things changed. The market got more competitive, and Anuuj realized, his venture wasn't going to be the next Amazon.
The make or break moment, right? He could have just kept pushing.
Yeah, for sure.
But he decided to learn from it and move on.
Exactly. And that decision led him back to American Express, where he had been handling digital escalations, which is really interesting because it gave him this unique view of the challenges companies were facing.
Makes sense.
And that's when the light bulb went off. He saw this huge gap in the market, particularly among government and corporate clients who needed innovative tech solutions, but were having trouble keeping up with the rapid pace of change.
They needed someone who understood both the tech side and the business side.
Right. Someone like a Nuge. And that's how YSTech was born.
So they started as a pre-accelerator for startups.
Yeah, but then they evolved to tackle some seriously complex problems for governments and corporations.
So what's driving this need for these kinds of solutions?
Well, Anuj believes it's because India's tech scene has fundamentally shifted. It's gone from being just an outsourcing hub to a real powerhouse of innovation.
He talks about how decades of outsourcing basically created this super skilled talent pool in India, right? They were working on projects from all over the world, honing their skills.
And when new opportunities and investments started flowing into India, that talent pool was ready to explode. They weren't just taking orders anymore. They were solving problems on a global scale.
Anuj said something like, talent is everywhere, but opportunity isn't.
Exactly. That really captures the potential he saw. And it's a great lesson for any company that's trying to grow.
And that's where YSTech comes in. They provide the opportunity for that talent to shine. But what's really interesting is their approach. They don't try to force clients to adopt some fancy tech they don't get.
Right.
They meet clients where they are.
So what does that look like in practice?
He calls it the platinum rule. Treat people how they want to be treated.
Not just how you think they want to be treated.
Exactly. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how many companies miss that. It's about understanding your clients' needs and finding solutions that fit their existing workflows and preferences.
It's like you can't teach a fish to climb a tree, right?
Exactly. A perfect example of this is a project they did for a government in Southeast Asia. They needed a live captioning and translation system for public events.
To make things more accessible.
Yeah, for immigrant populations and just to make things more inclusive.
That's a tough challenge, right?
Yeah.
Can't just use any old translation app.
Nope. They needed something that could handle multiple languages in real time and in all sorts of different settings.
That's where YSTech's technical expertise really shines. They used AI and large language models, taking inspiration from companies like OpenAI and Microsoft, but customizing it to fit the specific needs of their client.
So cutting-edge technology tailored to a real-world problem.
Okay, so they're taking these powerful AI tools and making them practical and scalable. That's impressive. So what were the specific AI models they used? What were some of the technical hurdles?
They actually combined a bunch of different approaches, including recurrent neural networks and transformer models.
Interesting.
But the real challenge was training these models on this huge data set of languages and accents, right? To make sure the translation was accurate in real time and in all sorts of different acoustic environments.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears for a second and look at another case study that shows their platinum rule in action. This one involves a project they did with a Middle Eastern government. They were tasked with coming up with a tech solution to empower senior citizens and bridge that digital divide.
Interesting. So the obvious solution would be to create some user-friendly app, right? Big fonts, voice commands, that kind of thing.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, but Anuuj's team realized that wasn't going to work.
Why not? I mean, isn't that what most companies would do?
They realized that a lot of senior citizens are hesitant to download and learn new apps.
Ah, I see.
So instead of trying to change their behavior, they got creative.
How so?
They integrated the technology into a platform that seniors were already using, WhatsApp.
Oh, that's smart. So they're meeting them where they are instead of making them learn something new.
Exactly.
That's the platinum rule in action.
Right. Think about it from a senior citizen's perspective. Instead of struggling with a new app, you just send a WhatsApp message like, send me my medical files, and boom, the information's right there on your phone in a format you already understand.
It's about making technology accessible and empowering, not intimidating.
Right. And that's a huge lesson for growing companies, right? Understanding your users is key, especially when you're working with a tight budget and need to see results quickly.
Can't just assume what people want.
Nope. You gotta meet them where they are. And it's not just about convenience, it's about inclusion. Making sure everyone can benefit from technology no matter their age or technical skills. And that's something you see woven throughout all of YSTech's work.
So it's not just about building cool tech solutions. It's about making a difference in people's lives.
Exactly. And Anuuj wants YSTech to be this next-generation tech firm, one that prioritizes work-life balance, offers chances to grow, and empowers employees to have a positive impact.
So it's not just about attracting talent. It's about cultivating it.
Exactly. And he gets that to stay ahead of the curve, you need to create an environment where people feel valued and inspired to do their best work.
It's a great point, and it's something any company can learn from. Now, I'm curious about their global reach. We've talked about projects in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Have they done work in other regions?
Oh yeah, they've had a ton of success in Latin America. One that stands out is their work with the Colombian government. They were brought in to help improve their livestock industry, make it more efficient, safer, and sustainable, and help them meet their environmental goals.
That's really interesting, especially with all the talk about the tension between environmental regulations and the livelihoods of farmers.
Right. In Europe, for example, there's been a lot of pushback from farmers against these ESG goals, environmental, social, and governance, because they see them as a threat to their traditional way of life and income.
Yeah.
But Colombia saw a chance to use technology to benefit both the environment and the farmers.
So they turned to YSTech.
Exactly. They implemented a pilot program that gave livestock farmers access to technology to track their whole supply chain.
Wow, so you can actually trace the journey of livestock from the farm to the consumer.
Exactly. Ensuring safety, transparency, and sustainability every step of the way.
Mm.
And here's the kicker. Because YSTech understood the challenges in Colombia, they created a solution that worked even in areas with limited internet access.
Oh, wow, so farmers could operate offline.
Exactly. No one was left behind.
That's incredible. So how did the project go?
It was a massive success. Not only did it help Colombia meet its environmental targets, but it also created a model for other countries facing similar issues. And it really speaks to Anuuj's belief that governments and tech companies need to work together to solve these complex global issues.
A win-win for everyone.
Exactly. It's not just about profit, it's about making the world a better place.
What a powerful message for any company. So what can we learn from YSTech's work in Colombia? What insights can our listeners apply to their own businesses?
One key takeaway is adaptability. Anuuj's own journey from e-commerce to tech services shows that you need to be flexible. Learn from your mistakes and embrace new opportunities.
Right.
It's also a reminder that understanding your target market is crucial. Whether you're working with seniors in the Middle East or farmers in Colombia, you have to meet your users where they are.
The platinum rule.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just listening to your clients. It's about building relationships built on trust and understanding.
And finally, YSTech's story shows the power of collaboration and partnerships, especially if you're a growing company with limited resources. Finding companies with specialized expertise can give you access to a global talent pool and fresh perspectives.
Anuuj's insights provide a roadmap for companies trying to navigate this ever-changing tech landscape and thrive in a world that demands constant innovation.
And he's got some fascinating ideas about using AI for cultural preservation and exchange, too, something we haven't really touched on yet.
That's true. It's such a fascinating and important topic. We'll definitely have to dedicate some time to that.
Agreed. But before we jump into that, let's recap what we've learned so far.
Sounds good. Let's highlight those key takeaways for our listeners.
Okay, so what have we learned from Anuuj and YSTech's journey so far?
Well, we've seen how a company can successfully use a global talent pool while staying within budget. YSTech's ability to tap into India's tech scene while following the platinum rule has allowed them to create innovative solutions that meet their clients' specific needs and situations.
We've also seen how important it is to be adaptable and willing to seize new opportunities. Anuuj's journey proves that sometimes the biggest successes come from shifting away from your original plans and being open to exploring new avenues.
And I think the main takeaway is that building a successful tech company isn't just about having the technical skills. It's about understanding your clients, building relationships, and being committed to using technology for good.
Those are some really valuable lessons for any company trying to innovate and grow in today's rapidly changing world.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to delve into Anuuj's vision for cultural preservation and exchange in the next part of our deep dive. It's a topic that has the potential to change how we think about technology and its role in shaping our world.
Great teaser. I'm already hooked. So listeners, stay tuned as we unpack these ideas and explore how you can apply them to your own businesses and endeavors.
So before we move on, we were talking about Anuuj's ideas for using AI for cultural preservation and exchange.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Especially if you're thinking about how tech can create a more inclusive and, well, just more interesting future.
It's like he's saying we can use AI to make life easier, sure, but let's also use it to understand each other better, preserve what makes each culture unique, and maybe even break down some barriers between people.
And it's not just about, like, saving old buildings or documents.
Right.
He wants to capture that living, breathing culture that's all around us. The stories, traditions, languages that make each community special.
And that's where businesses come in. Imagine companies using tech to share and celebrate these things.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Give me some examples. How could companies actually do this?
Well, let's say you're a travel company, right? Imagine using AI to create personalized trips that really immerse travelers in the local culture. Connect them with artists, musicians, storytellers, people who can share their knowledge and perspective.
I love that. You could even use AI to translate languages in real time so travelers can have deeper conversations with locals.
Exactly. Break down those communication barriers that often exist in tourism.
Or say you're a fashion brand. You could partner with indigenous designers to create a line of clothing or accessories that showcase their skills and heritage, and then use AI to tell their stories and connect with a global audience.
Right. It's about more than just selling a product. It's about creating a cultural experience.
Something that resonates with people on a deeper level. And I bet consumers would pay a premium for that kind of authenticity.
Absolutely. In a globalized world, the companies that can truly connect with diverse audiences are going to have a huge advantage.
So it's not just the right thing to do, it's smart business.
Exactly. Consumers are getting smarter. They want brands that reflect their values, tell real stories, and are making a positive impact. Using tech to preserve and share culture does all of that.
Anuuj also mentioned documenting family recipes and traditions. What are some other ways AI can be used for cultural preservation?
Language preservation is a big one. There are so many languages spoken around the world, and many are in danger of disappearing. AI can be used to create powerful translation tools and language learning platforms that could help revitalize these languages.
So companies could partner with linguistic experts and communities to create these tools, making it easier for people to learn and speak these languages.
Right. And that's not just about preserving words. It's about keeping entire cultures alive.
Yeah.
The stories and traditions that are connected to those languages.
Imagine a world where anyone could access a library of folktales, songs, historical accounts from every corner of the world, all translated into their own language.
It would revolutionize how we learn about history and culture.
And for companies, it's a goldmine of opportunities. Think about developing virtual reality experiences that let people step back in time, or interactive platforms that connect artisans from different cultures with a global audience.
The possibilities are endless.
You know what strikes me is Anuuj's optimism. He's not ignoring the potential risks of technology, but he sees it as this incredible tool for positive change.
He's urging us to be aware of the cultural impact of our work, to use this tech to create a more inclusive and vibrant world.
It's refreshing to hear that, especially in the tech industry, where the focus is often on disruption and profit.
He's challenging us to find a balance between innovation and responsibility, to make sure that technological progress benefits everyone, not just a select few.
It's a challenge worth taking on, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, especially for growing companies. They have the chance to be pioneers in this space, to lead the way and show the world that tech can be a force for good.
Okay, so let's bring this back to our listeners. What are some concrete steps companies can take to embrace this vision of cultural preservation and exchange, how can they make it a reality in their own businesses?
That's a great question. I think the first step is to just start talking about it. Ask yourself, how diverse is our team? Are we actively looking for people with different backgrounds and experiences? Are we creating a space where different cultures are celebrated and valued?
It's about going beyond just checking boxes on a diversity checklist.
Right. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels like they belong.
And once you've laid that groundwork, you can start looking at your products and services through a cultural lens.
Right. How can you incorporate cultural preservation and exchange into your offerings?
Can you give some specific examples?
Sure. Let's say you're making a language learning app. Instead of just focusing on grammar and vocabulary, why not include things like music, film, and literature from that language?
That's a great idea. It would make learning so much more engaging and immersive.
Or if you're a food delivery platform, you could partner with local restaurants and chefs to showcase traditional dishes and even offer virtual cooking classes or cultural experiences.
That sounds delicious. It would support local businesses and introduce users to a wider range of cultures.
And if you're in the gaming industry, you could incorporate historical or cultural elements into your game design. Create these immersive worlds that educate and entertain while promoting cultural understanding.
I love those ideas. It's all about finding ways to weave those cultural elements into your business.
Right. And remember, it's not just about incorporating them into your products and services. It's also about how you communicate with your customers and everyone involved.
So things like marketing materials, social media, even internal communications should all reflect this.
Absolutely. Make it a core part of your brand identity. Let it influence everything you do.
Anuuj also talked about partnering with organizations that are already doing great work in cultural preservation. What advice would you give companies looking to form those kinds of partnerships?
It's about finding organizations that share your values. Do your research, reach out. Start building those relationships. And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Like a tech company partnering with a museum to create virtual exhibits.
Exactly. Or a fashion brand collaborating with an indigenous artisan group.
The possibilities are endless.
Right. The key is to be creative, open-minded, and approach these partnerships with respect and a collaborative spirit.
It's important to remember that this kind of integration takes time and effort. It's not going to happen overnight.
You're right. It's a process that requires dedication, patience, and a willingness to learn and adapt.
But the benefits are worth it. By embracing cultural diversity and inclusion, companies can improve their bottom line A&D, make a positive difference in the world.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone.
Anuuj's final point was about the unpredictable nature of technology. He compared where we are now to the early days of the iPod, right before the smartphone revolutionized everything.
It's both exciting and a bit scary, isn't it? We're on the verge of another huge shift, and it's impossible to know for sure how AI, quantum computing, and all these new technologies will change our world. But it's definitely going to be interesting.
And that's why it's so crucial to be ready to embrace the unknown and adapt as things change.
Exactly.
So the question for our listeners is this: how will your company navigate this rapidly changing world? Will you just watch from the sidelines, holding on to outdated practices, or will you embrace the unknown, experiment with new ideas, and build a future that reflects your values and goals?
The choice is yours. But remember, the future of technology isn't set in stone. We create it together.
That's a powerful thought. It reminds us that we all have a part to play in shaping a better digital future, one that's both innovative and inclusive.
And as we continue exploring Anuuj's insights, I want to emphasize that this is just the beginning of the conversation. We've only scratched the surface of what's possible when we use tech for cultural preservation and exchange.
There's so much more to explore. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. What are your main takeaways from this part of the discussion?
For me, the biggest takeaway is the potential for businesses to be leaders in building a world that's richer and more inclusive. By embracing diversity, supporting creativity, and using technology in new and exciting ways, companies can connect with new markets, enhance their brands, and contribute to a more just and equal society.
That's a great point. It's a good reminder that businesses can be a force for good.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see how companies will push the boundaries and explore new possibilities as we venture into this unknown territory.
It's definitely an exciting time to be alive. I can't wait to see what the future holds. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Anuuj's insights and YSTech, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. The future of tech is uncertain, but one thing's for sure. The companies that will thrive are the ones that embrace diversity, foster creativity, and use their influence to make a positive impact on the world.
It's a call to action for all of us to think about the cultural impact of our work and use technology for good.
So go out there and use your knowledge, your creativity, and your passion to build a digital future that's innovative and inclusive. A future that celebrates the richness and beauty of human culture.
That's all for this. Thanks for joining us. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.